So this is part 2 of learning the basics for designing with darts. We're going to move on to lesson 4, center front neckline dart. So the next assignment that we're going to do is the center front neckline dart. So if you look at the illustration here, it's 2 darts that are coming up to the center front at the neck. And if you look at your traditional dart guide, then you can see here it's from the apex going up to that front corner. So let's go ahead and get that lightly on our master sloper, and this is our single dart sloper. Take out a piece of paper, get your center front, mark the location for the horizontal balance line, go ahead and square that with center front. Now when we're taking a look at this, this is the location that we want to end up at. And this is the dart down here that we're going to close. So we need to know what areas on this is going to be locked. For sure, center front is locked, and to the very first dart location it will be locked also. So we can get the waist and the first dart location. And let's go ahead and mark that dart leg in color. Center front is locked to this new dart location. Let's get that in color also. Then at this stage, we need to pivot the dart closed down at the bottom, making sure that your waist lines up. So now at this stage, you can go ahead and finish tracing off the rest of the sloper. So the waist, side seam, and then we come down here to our new dart, and let's go ahead and put that in color. So now when I pull this away, I want to circle where the apex is. I can very lightly draw in the new dart legs. And again, we want to find the middle of that. So I'm going to crease the paper here. There's the middle. Center of the dart. We're going to back it off 1/4 of an inch. This will be our new dart tip. And then we can erase those previous dart legs. And in color, let's go ahead and draw in the new dart legs to the new dart tip location. We do not want to fold the dart allowances towards center front because it's going to get too bulky inside of there. As well, there's going to be a whole nother dart here folding this way, and it'll get super thick. So on this instance, we're going to break the rule. Again, normally you would go from center front to the first dart leg and fold that away from center front. But in this instance, we're going to go ahead and go out to the second dart leg and fold that. Crease this to the new dart tip. And then we're going to close this coming towards center front. We'll tape that and go ahead and cut this out. Remember to leave some paper along center front. So I'm just trimming this down to about 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to fold center front under. So our pattern piece has structure to it. Now you can see the shaping of the dart. Here's the dart location. And then let's go ahead and take this dart out. and you can see the shaping here for the dart tip. So here at the apex, normally we would draw in a grain line, but if you'll notice, the grain line is going to conflict with the darts and dart legs, so it might get confusing for the sample sewer. So in this instance, we can just come out here to somewhere in the middle of the pattern piece and get our grain line going all the way through the pattern. We'll highlight that. Highlight the HBL. And we'll label this center front. And there you have your center front neck dart. The next one that we're going to do is the front shoulder dart bodice. Sometimes you'll be making a garment where along the bust and the waist is a really cool print or design, and you don't want to mess that up. So you'd rather have the dart up into the shoulders. Also, sometimes you'll be doing something with embroidery or beading and you want to have all of the waist untouched, and that would be another reason to have your dart excess in the shoulder instead of somewhere down in the bust area. So we're going to do the front shoulder dart. If you look on your dart locations list, you can see it's from the apex to the center of the shoulder. So go ahead and get your center front on a clean piece of paper, your horizontal balance line for your mini pattern piece. And then what we want to do is we want to find where is the middle of the shoulder up here, and then we'll draw a dart to it. So this will be our new dart leg, and again I'm going to draw this very lightly on my master sloper. So that's my new dart leg. And then we want to figure out what area is going to be locked down. So of course, center front is locked down to the beginning of the bottom dart, the waist dart, and it's going to be locked down for the neckline and the shoulder up to the new shoulder dart. So let's go ahead and mark that and put it in color, as well as the dart that we're going to close down here. Let's do that in color. So once we've locked down this area here, now we're ready to pivot. We're going to make the shoulder dart open up as the waist dart is closing. So let's go ahead and close that waist dart, making sure that the waist is a smooth, clean line. Then you can continue tracing off the rest of the pattern piece. All the way to that new shoulder dart. So then once I pull this away, again I want to circle the apex, and then if it helps you, you can lightly draw in. This is what the new dart is. And then I want to find the center of this. So I'm going to fold these together and I'm going to crease the middle. Here's the center of the dart. And again, we're going to back it off what would be the equivalent of 1 inch, so about a 1/4 inch. Circle that new dart tip and go ahead and draw in your new dart legs in color. Now something that you're going to notice, when you go to close this dart, there's going to be a lot of excess fabric either going towards the neck, or if you were to reverse this and close the dart, you're going to have a lot of excess fabric going towards the armhole. In this instance, sometimes what they'll do in production is the dart will have a cutaway. So you will have a seam allowance coming down and a seam allowance going out, and they will physically cut away the dart, and then they will fold it in place and sew it, and then press the seam allowances again towards center front or towards the sleeve. In this instance, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and have the seam allowance press towards center front, and we're going to do a cutaway dart. So starting from center front, come out to your first dart leg and fold this dart leg. And then we'll fold it on the tip so we can close this dart. Now I'm going to tape it closed. Since the dart is in the middle of a seam here, we want to go back on true that seam. So I'm just going from one corner to the next. And if the dart has a slight stair step in it, I'm going to just take an average of the two. So I'm splitting them. And then I can go ahead and clean up anything. Now what I want you to do on this assignment is, we've just been cutting everything right along the seam, not even worrying about seam allowance. But in this instance, I want to see that you understand the seam allowance going on for doing a cutaway dart. So here at the shoulder, what we're going to do is we're going to add a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So this will be, in a sense, as if though we had added our 1/2 inch seam allowance. So add a 1/4 inch here so we can cut this dart out while it's still folded. And then go ahead and cut everything else right along the seams. And like I said before, you're going to fold under center front. So just trim away to about of a 3/4 inch, and then we could fold under center front. So here's what your dart will look like finished when it's still taped together. And then at this point, when we untape this, you're going to see the dart shaping, which included the seam allowance. And then we're going to talk about taking away some of this fabric here by making seam allowance on the inside of the cutaway dart. So inside this dart, we're going to follow along the dart leg, the same 1/4 inch, pretending that that's 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then follow along this dart leg as well, 1/4 inch. And you'll see where the two merge long before they ever make it to the point. And this is correct. You want lots of seam allowance all along here, long before you get to that dart tip. Then what we can do is we can cut away. So we can cut away the excess of the dart. Again, keeping in mind that you will always have your seam allowance for the armhole, side seam, bottom of the waist. We're just doing this as an example to show the seam allowance here and here for the cutaway dart. How they would sew this in production is they would close the dart. They would stitch all the way from the dart tip off the seam allowances, and then they would press the seam allowances towards center front. And here with this pattern piece now, you can see if you were doing lots of embroidery, embellishments, beading, you can use all of this area and not have to worry about something getting cut off because there's a dart. So let's go ahead and finish labeling this. Same thing as before. If we were to put a grain line here at the apex, it's a little bit close to the dart and all this information. So what we can do is we can scoot it over slightly towards center front. So here's my grain line, and I'm going to highlight that in yellow. the horizontal balance line, and we'll label this center front. And there's your basic front shoulder dart. The next one we're going to do is the armhole dart. You can see in the drawing where it's coming up high into the armhole area, and if you look at the dart locations, you can see here from the apex into somewhere in the middle of the armhole area. So get your center front line, find where your pattern piece will fit inside of here, square up your horizontal balance line, and again what we want to do is we're going to very lightly draw from the apex to somewhere in the middle of this armhole area. You can also get a sense of the horizontal balance line here, the grain line there, and where would just be like a 45-degree angle going towards this here. So draw that in lightly. Again, we want to figure out the area that's locked down. So it's going to be from this dart leg closest to center front, along center front, the neckline, shoulder, and down to our new dart area. So go ahead and trace this off. So here is our dart leg that will be closing. Center front, neckline, shoulder, and then half of the armhole to this new armhole dart. So let's go ahead and put that in color. Now what we want to do is we're going to close the waist dart, and that's going to open up the armhole dart. So as I close this waist dart, I want to make sure that the bottom of the waist here doesn't have a weird stair step in it. And then I can continue tracing off the pattern up to that center of the armhole new dart location. We'll put that in color. Again, here is my apex. So a quick way to find our center of the dart is to put these two dart legs together, crease the paper, boom. This will go back to the apex. And then we want to back this off 1/4 inch. That will become our new dart tip. So let's go ahead and circle that in color. And then we'll draw in our new dart legs also with color. So here we have our new armhole dart. And normally what we'll do is we want the excess of the dart to go down with gravity. So here we can see that the dart seam allowance is going down with gravity. So starting from the bottom, we're going to come up to the first dart leg, and that's the one we're going to increase. So folding that bottom dart leg, we'll crease this right on the dart tip, and then we can close the dart leg going upwards. Go ahead and tape that off. Ideally, there shouldn't be any kind of a stair step or anything going on here. If you have pivoted correctly, it should just be a smooth line both at the waist and here. And then if you need to do any truing to it, go back to your tools. You'll notice in this instance our original French curve is too big for the armhole here at 1/4 scale. But you could come in and you can see if it's got some kind of a stair step, and you can fix that freehand. So let's go ahead and cut this out while it's still taped together. As always, we'll leave some on center front and fold center front under. And then here we have our armhole dart. And then let's go ahead and take this out. So from the apex, we're going to go ahead and square up the grain line, which is parallel to center front. And we'll get that with a highlighter. Horizontal balance line. Label this center front. And there's our armhole dart. The next one we're going to do is the side seam bustline dart. This one looks similar to when we did the French dart, but this one's just on the side seam following along the horizontal balance line. So again, here if you look on the dart location, it's the side seam bust dart. So go ahead and find your center front and a horizontal balance line. Square that up with center front. Now for this one, we don't need to come in and trace off the side seam bust dart because we're going to align it perfectly right here with the HBL. Again, so we want to know what area is going to be locked. So it's going to be from this dart leg closest to center front, so we can go ahead and trace off that waist. I'll put this in color so we know that's where we're closing to. We already have center front, so here is our neck, shoulder, the complete armhole, and the side seam down to this new dart area. So let's go ahead and put that in color. Now we're ready to pivot this closed, so I'm going to hold this at the apex and I'm going to close the waist dart. I'm making sure the pattern piece hasn't moved, so this is a smooth, clean line right along the waist. We could finish drawing the side seam up to that HBL, which is the new dart. And let's go ahead and put that in color. Now as we pull this away, here was our apex. We want to find the center of the dart. So I'm creasing the paper. Here's the center. I'm going to connect the center of the dart back to the apex. We're going to back this off 1/4 of an inch. That will become my new dart tip. I'll draw in my new dart legs in color. And then again, we want the excess of the dart to be folding down with gravity. So we're going to start at the waist and come up to the first dart leg. We're going to fold that dart leg. We'll crease this at the dart tip. And then that bottom dart leg is going to fold upwards. We'll tape this off. We're going to double check that this side seam is still a straight line, and then true it up and erase any information that's confusing. And while it's taped together, let's go ahead and cut the dart leg out, and we'll continue cutting out the full pattern piece. As always, you want to leave some paper along center front so we can fold under center front. So after we take the dart out, let's go ahead and get our grain line. So coming back to the original apex, I want to square that up with center front. As well as highlighting our horizontal balance line. And then we'll label this center front. And there is our completed side seam dart. Alright, so the dart manipulation for learning the basics, the one that we have not done yet is the one where it's showing the back neck dart is changing locations. So as you notice on your back, there is the neck, there's a shoulder dart as well as the waist dart. And what we're going to do in this instance is we're going to take the shoulder dart and migrate it here so it's coming from the neck. And you can see that here on the illustration. Something that you need to keep in mind is on the back here, the reason that there's a dart at the shoulder is for her shoulder blade. So this is giving some room for her shoulder blade to move around and for her arm to have a little bit of looseness to it. So as she's moving and grabbing and using her cell phone, all of this area is giving her ease and room to move. And then the back dart here at the waist is to make it so it's fitted in the waist. Now we can't just take this dart, pick it up and drop it here and expect that we're going to get the same results. The important area is down here, so in between these two darts, the central area down in here, this is where her shoulder blade is getting that room. So we're going to have to find a pivot point down here in this area to take this dart and close it from here and open it there. The way that we do it is, if you take the outside dart legs of both the waist and the shoulder dart and draw straight lines from them, where they converge will become our new pivot point. So let's take a closer look at that. Again, starting from the side seam, we're going to move into this dart leg, and we're going to square our ruler right with it so it's parallel to that dart leg, and just lightly come out here into the center of the pattern piece. And then same things from the side seam moving over, we're going to use the first dart leg of the shoulder dart, and we're going to get our ruler squared up with that. And we're going to lightly draw a line into this area as well to see where they converge. And where they converge is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that. And that's going to become the pivot point for my back. Alright, so let's get started, and we're going to trace this off onto a new piece of paper. So the center back is here. We're going to start on this side of the paper and come in. And then we want to find the middle of the horizontal balance line and some lines that it will match up to. And we'll square our horizontal balance line. And then let's go ahead and trace off the back, being sure that you're getting your notches for the dart, the original dart tip, armhole, side seam, as well as transferring the waist dart and dart tip. Go ahead and lightly draw in your dart legs back to the dart tips. And the waist dart itself is not going to change. So through the whole assignment, you'll see that the waist dart never changes. So this one, if you want, you could draw it in a little bit darker and circle the dart tip. Somewhere in this area is where we want to decide where we're going to pivot closed the shoulder dart and pivot open a new neckline dart. So what we can do is, starting from the side seam, we're going to come into the first dart leg. And with your ruler, you're going to follow that dart leg and lightly draw a line here into this middle area. And then same thing again from the side seam over to the first dart leg, parallel with that shoulder dart, and again come into this area. And where the two are intersecting is going to become our pivot point. Somewhere in the neck here is going to be where the dart ends up. And what we'll do is we'll just use the middle of the neck, like you can see here on the drawing. So come into the neck area and find what would be the middle of that. And from that, we're going to go ahead and draw in a line all the way back to the apex. And at this point, go ahead and erase anything that's a little bit confusing. And we'll lightly draw this in with color. Just lightly, because you're not going to actually use the full line. We only need part of that line. Let's put some tape here at our new pivot point. We're going to go ahead and cut down that dart leg all the way to the pivot point, remembering to leave just a little bit of paper left over. Then the next one that we're going to do is this new neck dart. We're going to cut straight down the new neck dart towards that pivot point. And again, we're going to leave it so it's just slightly attached to the paper. Now what we can do is the dart from the neck, so there was one dart leg here, one dart leg here. We're going to go ahead and close this dart. So I'm going to lift up the side and start to pivot that under. And then we can go ahead and true this new shoulder. So again, it's going to be from the corner at the neck to the corner at the shoulder. Go ahead and get a nice clean straight line. If there's any other extra lines that are a little bit confusing, you can erase those away. And then we'll tape this down a little bit better on both sides. Now this is going to be the beginning of our new neck dart. What we want to do is we want to fill this in with paper. And then if you recall, the shoulder dart itself, when we were draping this, was 3.5 inches long. Once we move over here into the neck, we just want it to be 3 inches long. So we're going to take the equivalent of what this was at 3.5, back it off a little bit and come in here, and we'll get what we're saying is a 3-inch dart at this quarter scale. The dart leg closest to center back is where we're going to measure down. So starting from center back, move over to that first dart leg. And this is the one where we're going to measure down 3 inches. Remembering at quarter scale, we don't know exactly what 3 inches is. If you look at your original shoulder dart, this was 3.5 inches. And if we back that off a little bit, this would be about 3 inches. So coming down into here, this is about 3 inches. That is going to become our new dart tip. And then go ahead and draw in the first dart leg right along that original line. And then the second dart leg is going to come over to where the neck opened up. And it will come down to that new dart tip. And now we have our new dart at the neck. So let's go ahead and fold these darts. So again, starting from center back, we're going to come over to the very first dart leg and fold that one. And then we'll crease it here at the dart tip. And we're folding towards the side seam. We'll go ahead and tape that, and let's cut out the neck while the dart is closed. And then what we want to do is we want to fold the bottom dart closed, the waist dart. So again, starting from center back, we're going to come out to the first dart leg. We're going to crease it on that dart leg and then fold it on the dart tip. So from the center back, we can fold this dart towards the side seams. We'll tape it in place, and we're going to go ahead and true this up with our French curve and make sure there's no little stair steps there. And there shouldn't be, because the sloper itself should be totally perfect, trued, everything's done. So if you have folded this correctly, it will already match perfectly. With that dart closed, we can go ahead and cut out the waist. And then, like I always say, just trim this down to about 3/4 at center back, and let's fold under center back so it has some structure. Now we've taken our back piece and we got rid of the shoulder dart, transferred it to becoming a neck dart, and then we still have our original waist dart. And then here you can still see it's got that shaping for her shoulder blade underneath her shirt. So let's go ahead and take these darts out and we'll start labeling this. Now for our grain line, what we can do is we can come out here somewhere to the middle of the pattern piece, or you can choose the center of this waist dart. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here to the dart tip of the waist dart, and I'm going to make sure that I'm parallel to center back, and my grain line will become the center of this dart all the way to the top. And let's go ahead and highlight that. And then our original horizontal balance line, it's going to be incorrect a little bit off to the side here, but it is correct at center back. So go ahead and square up your ruler at center back, and then come all the way across to fix your horizontal balance line. And then, so it's easy to see your darts, go ahead and, if you need to, just redraw in color at the waist. I'm going to draw in the waist dart legs and circle the dart tips. And then we can come here to center back and label it. In the chapters, there's still a lot more advanced dart manipulations that you can practice and learn, and then eventually you're going to want to start doing these at full scale, and eventually you'll start doing them in final fabric.